Chapter 11, The Miracle. Charlie entered the shop and laid the damp 50 pence on the counter. "One Wonka's Whipple Scrumptious Fudge Mallow Delight," he said, remembering how much he had loved the one he had on his birthday. The man behind the counter looked fat and well-fed. He had big lips and fat cheeks and a very fat neck. The fat around his neck bulged out all around the top of his collar like a rubber ring. He turned and reached behind him for the chocolate bar. Then he turned back again and handed it to Charlie. Charlie grabbed it and quickly tore off the wrapper and took an enormous bite. Then he took another and another. And oh, the joy of being able to cram large pieces of something sweet and solid into one's mouth. The sheer blissful joy of being able to fill one's mouth with rich, solid food. "You look like you wanted that one, Sonny," the shopkeeper said pleasantly. Charlie nodded, his mouth bulging with chocolate. The shopkeeper put Charlie's change on the counter. "Take it easy," he said. "It'll give you a tummy ache if you swallow it like that without chewing." Charlie went on wolfing the chocolate. He couldn't stop, and in less than half a minute, the whole thing had disappeared down his throat. He was quite out of breath, but he felt marvelously, extraordinarily happy. He reached out a hand to take the change. Then he paused. His eyes were just above the level of the counter. They were staring at the silver coins lying there. The coins were all 5-penny pieces. There were 9 of them altogether. Surely it wouldn't matter if he spent just one more. "I think," he said quietly, "I think I'll have just one more of those chocolate bars. The same kind as before, please." "Why not?" the fat shopkeeper said, reaching behind him again and taking another Whipple Scrumptious Fudge Mallow Delight from the shelf. He laid it on the counter. Charlie picked it up and tore off the wrapper. And suddenly, from underneath the wrapper, there came a brilliant flash of gold. Charlie's heart stood still. "It's a golden ticket!" screamed the shopkeeper, leaping about a foot in the air. "You've got a golden ticket! You've found the last golden ticket! Hey, would you believe it? Come and look at this, everybody! The kid's found Wonka's last golden ticket! There it is! It's right here in his hands!" It seemed as though the shopkeeper might be going to have a fit. "In my shop, too!" he yelled. "He found it right here in my own little shop! Somebody call the newspapers, quick, and let them know! Watch out now, Sonny! Don't tear it as you unwrap it! That thing's precious!" In a few seconds, there was a crowd of about 20 people clustering around Charlie, and many more were pushing their way in from the street. Everybody wanted to get a look at the golden ticket and at the lucky finder. "Where is it?" shouted somebody. "Hold it up so all of us can see it." "There it is, there!" someone else shouted. "He's holding it in his hands. See the gold shining?" "How did he manage to find it? I'd like to know," a large boy shouted angrily. 20 bars a day I've been buying for weeks and weeks." "Think of all the free stuff he'll be getting, too," another boy said enviously. "A lifetime supply." "He'll need it, the skinny little shrimp," a girl said, laughing. Charlie hadn't moved. He hadn't even unwrapped the golden ticket from around the chocolate. He was standing very still, holding it tightly with both hands, while the crowd pushed and shouted all around him. He felt quite dizzy. There was a peculiar floating sensation coming over him, as though he were floating up in the air like a balloon. His feet didn't even seem to be touching the ground at all. He could hear his heart thumping away loudly somewhere in his throat. At that point, he became aware of a hand resting lightly on his shoulder, and when he looked up, he saw a tall man standing over him. "Listen," the man whispered, "I'll buy it from you. I'll give you 50 pounds. How about it, huh? And I'll give you a new bicycle as well, okay?" "Are you crazy?" shouted a woman who was standing equally close. "Why, I'd give him 200 pounds for that ticket." You want to sell that ticket for 200 pounds, young man? That's quite enough of that, the fat shopkeeper shouted, pushing his way through the crowd and taking Charlie firmly by the arm. Leave the kid alone, will you? Make way there. Let him out. And to Charlie, as he led him to the door, he whispered, Don't you let anybody have it. Take it straight home, quickly, before you lose it. Run all the way and don't stop till you get there. You understand? Charlie nodded. You know something, the fat shopkeeper said, pausing for a moment and smiling at Charlie. I have a feeling you needed a break from this. I'm awfully glad you got it. Good luck to you, Sonny. Thank you, Charlie said, and off he went, running through the snow as fast as his legs would go. And as he flew past Mr. Willy Wonka's factory, he turned and waved at it and sang out, I'll be seeing you. I'll be seeing you soon. And 5 minutes later, he arrived at his own home. So now that you've read that exciting chapter, I'd like you to make a prediction again about what you think will happen next in the book. Now, your prediction can describe what you think will happen right away, like in the next chapter, chapter 12, or you could think far ahead when you make your prediction and think what's going to happen to come way in the distance of the book. But no matter what you predict, make sure that you think about what's already happened in the book, because that will help you to form a prediction that has details and that can really be clearly understood by someone who would be reading it. For example, me. When I read your predictions, I want to see that you are thinking about the characters, such as Charlie, thinking about what he might decide to do next, because we know a lot about him already. And when you write your predictions, not only tell what you think is going to happen, because I know you'll have to do that. You'll have to tell what you think will happen next, but also you need to start thinking about telling how it will happen next. So for example, if you predict Charlie is going to run straight home, just like the shopkeeper told him to, you should tell how he will when you write. This is how I would do it. I would say, my prediction is that Charlie is going to run straight home with that ticket. He doesn't have a pocket in his pants that doesn't have a hole in it. All of his pants have holes in their pockets because, after all, he's poor and he's very old. And his pants are very old. So he doesn't feel comfortable putting that ticket in his pocket. So he's going to fold it up gently. Maybe he'll roll it up so it doesn't actually crease. And he'll keep it concealed in his fist. That way, nobody can see that he's got it. And he'll take the shortest way home that he knows. He will not take a roundabout way. He'll take the fastest, shortest way home possible. And when he trudges through that snow, he might trip and fall once or twice. I think actually he will trip, and I think that ticket might fall out of his hand into the snow. And maybe somebody notices it, but Charlie is too quick, and he grabs it again, and he goes right into his house. I think this might happen because Charlie is an obedient child. He really cares about his parents and his grandparents, and he does what they tell him. So I'm thinking that he can tell that shopkeeper was trying to look out for him, just the way his parents and grandparents do. So he's going to do exactly what the shopkeeper suggested, because he realizes that's actually quite a good idea. And he was also conserving his energy and not running around or playing out at recess very much because he was starving. But now he had just eaten an entire bar of chocolate, and he's got some energy now. Plus, having found that golden ticket, that just probably gave him a surge of excitement, thinking about what's going to happen next for him. And so I bet he had this renewed sense of energy besides that chocolate that he ate, so that he got home quick. That's a long prediction, and I wouldn't expect you to write all of that, but you can see how I decided to tell what would happen and how it would happen with a lot of details. Good luck on your prediction, and I can't wait to read it.